We have been studying this year on the Anapanasati, and this is still related to the Anapanasati, that when we are unable to be mindful of, then that basically leads to the formations or manifestations on the things that we come across, whether the things that we see, hear, smell, touch, and even thinking, that simply proliferates. But the very moment when we become mindful and coming back to here and now, then that basically having this knowledge to be in the present moment. When we are in the present moment, then we have at least of a basic knowledge, wisdom, discerning that this is here. So there is no other things invading or other things working on. That's why the practice of mindfulness on the breath becomes the part to keep us in that, as a part to keep us in the present moment. Now I will read this one discourse which is related to the Anapanasati to extend our understanding. So this sutta, this discourse says, at Savatthi, because this body is not yours, nor does it belongs to others. It is all karma, to be seen as generated and fashioned by volition, as something to be felt. Therein, because the instructed noble disciple attends carefully and closely to dependent origination itself, thus, when this exists, that comes to be. With the arising of this, that arises. When this does not exist, that does not come to be. With the cessation of this, that ceases. This is, with ignorance as a condition, volitional formations comes to be. With the volitional formations as condition, consciousness such as the origin of this whole mass of suffering, but with the reminderless fading away and a cessation of ignorance comes cessation of volitional formations. With the cessation of volitional formations, cessation of consciousness. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. So here, the first practice is saying that this body is not yours, nor does it belongs to others. So that is the first thing that we have to understand.
What is this discourse?
Sorry?
What's the name of
this? The discourse name is called Not Yours. Not yours. And here says that this body is, so it is all karma. So it is all karma, to be seen as generated and fashioned by volition. So fashioned by volition. So this is the result of our own old karma. So we are having this body. And then because of the old karma, we are here. And then because we are here, and it will further on. And in order to clear it, we have to read another discourse, which is the second after that. So that's in the same sutta, a similar place. At Savatthi, because what one intends and what one plans and whatever one has a tendency towards, this becomes a basis for the maintenance of a consciousness. When there is a basis, there is a support for the establishing of a consciousness. When consciousness is established and has come to growth, there is the production of a future renewed existence. When there is the production of a future renewed existence, future birth, aging, and a death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, pleasure, and a despair comes to be. Such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering. If because one does not intend and one does not plan, but one still has a tendency towards something, this becomes a basis for the maintenance of a consciousness. When there is a basis, there is a support for the establishing of consciousness. Such is the origin of the whole mass of suffering. But because when one does not intend and one does not plan and one does not have a tendency towards something, no basis exists for the maintenance of a consciousness. When there is no basis, there is no support for the establishing of a consciousness. When consciousness is unestablished and does not come to growth, there is no production of future renewed existence. When there is no production of a future renewed existence, future birth, aging, and a death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, pleasure, and a despair cease. Such is the cessation of a whole mass of suffering. Yeah? So this is basically saying that first, this body that we have is the old karma, the result of our old karma. And because of that, again, we are forming again, thinking again, and creating again. And that creating again started from what we intend, volition wants to do. So, whenever we come to contact with outside world, then because of the volition that we have, then straight away we create something. Intend to have, intend not to have. And then with that, what is happening here, that we are creating that this object or this object becomes the relevant, and then we attach to that relevant object. So we create, it's called a bhava, creating existence. And with that, it creating, then what happens? There consciously we are aware of that. So consciously we're thinking of that. When we are consciously thinking of that, what happens? That goes into the subconsciousness. And sometimes we do not. Although we say that we do not think about it, often when something, the condition comes, it just comes back. It just comes back from the subtle consciousness. It comes back again. So that's why the moment when it becomes the consciousness, consciously aware of that, then again creates furthermore, creating further on that. And that's how the very moment when we have a volitional intention on that particular object that we come across, then that is the beginning of a new birth. And then that beginning of a new birth, then that is bringing to have this body. And there's again in that the previous sutta, the discourse saying, this body is not yours, no others. This body is not yours, no others. Right? So that is also, we have to remember in it as well. And which is the reason why when we take this body as a mind, that's how we feel suffering. We feel suffering. And then because of that, the more we become attached to it, the greater the suffering we experience. And then with that attachment again, what happens is that we do not want to die. And we hold on to it. And then we have a fear of a death. And we're thinking that there is no after. And with that, what happens? And we want to live long life. So striving it through whichever ways we want to live long. And then when we hear somebody died, and then we feel, oh. And in the meantime, we forgot that we also going to die too, like that. But whereas, the moment when we understand that this is not mine, and in the same time, the second phrase, it is not others. So that means we have a responsibility to look after it too. Not like a discarding, not looking after it. We have to look after it. So here, and when it says looking after it, the Buddha is referring that we have to be practicing the four sublime. We have to be kind. Kind to this body. We have to be compassionate to this body. And also, we have to rejoice. That's called altruistic joy, right? Or mudita. So you have to celebrate. Oh, I have no illness today. Or sometimes when you feel very tired and you have a good sleep, and then you have a good time now. So it's like a giving appreciation to this body that, oh, you don't have any trouble. And in the meantime, the last one, that is the equanimity. Sometimes you have to let it be equanimous. Some diseases can be cured, other diseases can't. In those cases, it's okay. Better than so many other people. Better than so many people that are going through with the different diseases. I am still better. This body is still better. It's like there are so many people, they even can't walk, but I can walk. Like that. And then ability to keep the mind in equanimous in that way, and let it to this body. And understanding that this body doesn't matter how we want it to be, it won't be like that. Day by day, it's just become a fragile and fragile and fragile, like that. So, by this way, then, when we look at in this way, when we are coming back to the Anapanasati, the breathing meditation, what the Buddha is referring here is that from the very early stage, so sometimes we have a confusion on the practice of this Anapanasati, that whether we can practice it from the Samatha or Vipassana, the calming meditation or the insight meditation. Is it possible to practice it? No. Then, when we look at the scripture, then we realize that Buddha didn't classify it into the Samatha and Vipassana. He simply said that this is how you practice. But Venerable Sariputta explains in a way that you can practice to discern it from the very beginning, from the first breath. Right? When you pay attention to the first breath, you are thinking, or you are having this knowledge to understand that this is not mine. No, this is others. So here body referring to that stage, the initial stage. Right? So this breath is not mine, no others. Right? If I say this is mine, I should be able to keep it. But I can't keep this breath. And then if I say this is others, then it's repeatedly coming back to me again and again, whether we like it or not. Right? So like that. So, Venerable Sariputta in Patisambhida Magga explaining that each breath, when we pay attention to it, we have to see in this way. In order to see in this way, again, we have to realize that each breath that is coming in and going out is the natural fact that this will be changing all the time. Okay? It is changing all the time, this breath. So, from the beginning, we are practicing it to see the natural phenomena of the change. So that's how this is practicing, in a way, Vipassana meditation. From the first breath. Each breath that coming in and going out. And then each breath that we pay attention to it. So that's the kaya, it's called a breath body, is not mine, nor this is others. So that's why when we are breathing out, and again, within that breath, again, we have to be mindful, sharing with breathing out with a kindness. Okay, like that. Whereas, if we go to the commentary, this Visuddhimagga, the Visuddhimagga explaining in a way of the calming meditation. So each breath that we are paying attention to is simply to gain the concentration, serenity. In particular, the first four stages, the kaya Anapanasati, the contemplation of the breath, that is referring to the contemplation of Samatha meditation. So in that's why when you're paying attention to the breath coming in and going out, you're trying to focus on it so that no hindrances will come and disturb. Your mind is not distracted. You completely absorbed and focus in it. That's how you will be able to practice each stages at one at a time. So that's why there are 8 stages to practice. That's why it's called 8 jnanas, different jnanas, right? So when a long breath, we know. A short breath, we know. And then it's again connected to the body, we know. And then how this body forms, we know there. Now, after we have attained the 4th stage of the kaya Anapanasati, then after that, there is again a possibility of practicing Vipassana from there on. Because you're focusing on the sensations, focusing on the feelings. And again, it depends on which level of concentration one has developed from there. Sometimes it could be from the 3rd, and then sometimes could be 4th, and that's how you can see the different stages from on. That's how you can see the difference, the body, breath body, and this a flesh body, and then how this mind has developed the nimitta, the focus attention, either in the breath or the abdomen or wherever you feel comfortable to pay attention to it. So from there, and then that one. From there, starting, now here, another perspective we have to look at here is that now from the Patisambhida Magga, it is explaining that you can practice Vipassana meditation from the beginning, whereas from the Visuddhimagga, you cannot practice until you attain the 3rd or the 4th stage of the kaya Anapanasati. Then you can practice the Vipassana meditation within that. There's 16 stages. Now what we have to remember here, that the very moment when our mind is intent to do something based on this sutta, the 2nd sutta, so here we always have to remember whether we are starting from the Vipassana or whether starting from the Samatha meditation. But eventually it comes to the stage that it's based on our mental state, what we intend to do. So that's why when in a practice, we can practice from the breathing meditation to start off, and straight away move into the seeing that this breath is changing all the time. And if we can't see this breath as a change, then again we can see that this breath I can observe because of the sensation. So you're starting from the sensation level. Right? And then sometimes not the sensation, but through this breath, able to see that how my mind early on it was thinking about something, and now I can see this breath. Right? So awareness of the breath comes. So with that, the awareness of this breath becomes the foundation, but paying attention to the mental state, how my mind is working on. Yeah? And this is, from this discourse actually, when we are paying attention to this mental state, every time when we think about something, then that leads to do or create something else. So it's coming back to the paticcasamuppada now. So dependent origination. So as because of not knowing, avijja, then that creates what is sankhara, formation. And that's again based on a volition, intention, our intention. So that creates a volition, the sankhara. And because of having a sankhara, because we have created our conscious, we become consciously aware of that and consciously thinking of it, and then that jumps to the existence. And so we create furthermore. And with that creation, again, we are getting a new body, new life, move on and on. Right? So whereas the very moment when we settled on the breath and gain the pure knowledge or clear understanding of it, what we are doing it's just stopped there. There is no intention to be or to not to be. We just see it as that conditioned, and then that's how it ends there. Okay?
You mean just to keep the awareness?
Discernment. Seeing that each thing that we are paying attention to or we are aware of it is basically the conditioned things. Or another way of looking at it, this is a changing nature. Right? So and now when we see that, in order to see that whole spectrum of this changing nature, and until they gain the complete knowledge, which we call Vipassana Jnana 16. So there's a stages of from the Nama Rupa, the ability to see the different mind and the matter, and then when we see the mind and the matter, that moment we able to see that because of this conditioning, then we see the sammasana, or the conditioning, how the changes, and that move on, and then with that, now with that understanding, then the fourth section of fourth contemplation of the Dhammanupassana, the anicca, will start there, and then another rest of the 16 stages enlarge from there.
The Vipassana comes after that.
Yeah. Right. So this is from the Samyukta Nikaya that I refer to. Okay. And then further on it says that when you have no conscious vijnana, conscious to create or intention to create, then eventually there will be no suffering. So that's the ending of the suffering. So anything? I think I stop here.
Lots of to think about.